Hey, people. Hey, people. Hey, people. No, they're not going to like that one. Shit. What's a good one? How do I make it sound like I'm really invested in what's going on? Hey, people. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm going to go live with that one, I think. I'm going to go live with that one. All right. Oh, shit. I'm already live. Oh, no. Yeah. How's everybody doing? I myself doing pretty good. Just hanging out. Boo. Well, you know what? Boo yourself, Messin Mod. You ever considered that maybe, just maybe, that boo maybe should just be directed inward? I don't know. Doing a second stream today. Why? I don't know. I felt like it. Phantom said at the very beginning. Hold on, let me put up the comment. 2 streams in one day. Sound like someone is hooked. I can't deny it. I really can't. This shit's like crack. as soon as it gets its hooks in you, as soon as it's your show, and you get to do whatever the hell you want. I don't know. I was already pretty enthused about going on other people's shows as it was, but no, I'm loving this shit. Truth be told, never quite, never surrender. That's my motto. Mod says. Okay, good, fan 2. Yeah, I don't really have too much of a direction. I know, surprise, right? Shocking. Aiden is doing a stream without too much of a direction. But I figured that I have a little bit of a topic that I wanted to discuss. And I wanted to do that in a fairly brief amount of time because I know that the Proverbs guys are having that debate over on their channel, right? That's going to be coming up in just a couple hours here. So make sure you go check that out. They're going to be doing a debate. I think it's Robin versus Steven on whether America is founded on Christian values or not. So that ought to be interesting. I do what I want. Aiden? Question mark? Maybe. No, but I do have an article pulled up here that I wanted to do a little bit of reading from. And that was, I just put it up here. PBS weekend newscast shut down due to funding cuts, replaced by single topic programs. So PBS will premiere separate programs on science and foreign affairs next weekend after shutting the doors on its Saturday and Sunday breaking newscasts because of the federal government's cut of $1.1 billion in funding to public broadcasting. PBS News Weekend signed off Sunday, at least for the foreseeable future, anchor John Yang said. The weekend sister of PBS NewsHour began broadcasting in 2013 from New York and moved to Washington in 2022. Starting Saturday, PBS will air the weekly show Horizons on science and technology issues. The new show Compass Points will focus on foreign affairs Sunday. Both programs will be taped in advance during the week, enabling PBS to save money by cutting back on weekend staff, said Sarah Just, senior executive producer for NewsHour. The weekend newscast averaged 827,000 viewers per show, roughly 1 million less than what NewsHour gets during the week, according to the Nielsen Company. So the Republican-controlled Congress, responding to President Donald Trump's wishes, eliminated funding for PBS and NPR in July. The president has complained about news programming on public broadcasting being biased against conservatives. And I love anytime that's ever talked about, anytime that the whole, XYZ corporation or news company is against them, the public broadcasting service which I'm pretty sure is what PBS stands for. I remember I grew up watching that a fair bit because my family wasn't one where we would be able to get any kind of cable package or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the only reason why we had a TV to begin with was because my grandparents ended up getting a newer version and they didn't have room in their house for their current one, so they gave it to my parents. And what did we have to watch on that? We sure as shit didn't have any of the regular things that you would be typically watching at that age. We had public access shit. And PBS was one of those programs. And a whole bunch of their science and nature documentaries. If they were broadcasting nonstop leftist propaganda on PBS, all I'm saying is I must have missed it. I don't remember that happening at any point. I don't remember there being this, hey, make sure you check out Nova. And by the way, after that, tune into the program about how Karl Marx was the best person ever and how communism needs to take over America. Like, I just don't remember that ever being a segment on PBS. So, I don't know. I think that in reality, these cutbacks to these public broadcasting services, including NPR, which, don't get me wrong, is every NPR like the most fascinating thing to listen to? Not necessarily. I'm not going to act like it's the most titillating thing to, spend your evening going, hello, my name is David Michael, and today on NPR, we'll be talking about the yellow-breasted European swallow and the migration patterns that the yellow-breasted European swallow takes in the late spring compared to that of early winter. This program will now go on for 87 minutes. It's like, okay, that is not the most titillating shit, don't get me wrong, but it was really educational, and it still is to this day. I've learned loads of shit from listening to programs like NPR that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. And ultimately, it's public access to that kind of information is the primary reason why I bring this up, because it's very important that the public have access to this kind of information. Now, it's not just television, right? It's also covering radio as well. And even though radio and television are definitely not as relevant of forms of media as they once were, it's still undeniable that they're still receiving millions of people listening to them and watching them every single day. It's not like they're dead forms of media. This isn't the phonograph, this isn't the telegram or anything like that. Sorry, the telegraph, rather. These aren't forms of media that have just been abandoned. So if anybody wants to make the claim that, oh, well, they're outmoded forms of media and they probably shouldn't be receiving federal funding anyway, well, I mean, last I checked, it's still making a tangible impact out there in the world. So I think it's definitely worth the cost. $1.1 billion, it's such a fucking drop in the bucket. Like, what's $1.1 billion to the United States of America? It's nothing. It's nothing at all. Of course, to me and you, it's an astronomical sum of money, but we're literally talking about the richest country on the face of the planet. I'm going to do a little bit of reading a chat here because I've kind of fallen a little bit behind. I'm going to have to go back about 30 minutes. I'm going to do a missing mod. That's what I'm going to do. I thought the debate was, should we give a darn about beavers? Should we give a darn about beavers? Listen here, Stephen. All I'm trying to say is that these here beavers, we got to keep them around because they produce the best beaver video. What do you want, Stephen? You want AI beaver videos? You want them beavers to have 3 tails and 14 buck teeth because what that AI program can't program it properly? I don't think so, Stephen. It's a good debate. I'd tune into that. I tune into that. So unfair. Robin's actually extremely articulate. It's not an accurate impersonation at all. It's not. I'm just gonna go double check really quick before I keep reading the chat. 4 likes. Thank you so much, everybody that's watching right now. Yeah, I'm not expecting this to be a super huge stream or anything like that, especially given the fact that it was my second one today. But thank you so much to everybody that's tuning in so far. Cloud says, there's a big similarity between heaven's biblical justice and Iran's Islamic justice. And I mean, like, to an extent, that's pretty true. I mean, he definitely, in a similar vein to Iran, abides by a very, like, we just need to do everything that God says because God's the ultimate authority. Hong Kong Coven. Like, all right. He's not, like, forcing any women to wear hijabs, and he's not stoning people to death for apostasy or anything like that. But I agree that, like, in principle, you could definitely have a correlation between those two things. I could agree with that. Washington, that's the problem. Bob says, B.S. Lewis, only Jodie Foster's The BVL. Aiden keeps saying PBS, and I keep thinking, I didn't drink enough water. You know what, BS? I gotta give BS credit. He's always got the side chat on lockdown, man. He's got that shit on lock. If you need somebody to shoot some clever ass comments out there into the side chat, Jesus, he's got to teach a class about that at some point because he's pretty damn good at it. I gotta say. Can't say that, Claude. BS is mad at her right now. Damn. And BS says, Jodie Foster is the dollar store mod. Was that the other way around? Wow. That was a bit of a posy right there, dude. What do you mean was that the other way around, you silly goose, BS? You silly goose. Ruffle your hair, you lovable little scamp. The other way, mod says. And Cloud says, missing mad, nutshell, if I can't say, Jodie Foster Beaver, Heaven's Bible Justice. And Mod says, well, they both sound bad. He says, say whatever you want, I'm kidding. And Claude says, I've met a few yellow-breasted European nut swallows. That is right, Claude. We're back with NPR, and following our program about the yellow-breasted European swallow, we'll now be covering the red-breasted South American spit on the next program. A much more fearsome creature than the yellow-breasted European swallow, if I do say so myself. Just mix them, Claude. Hovind Foster's Beaver Justice. That sounds like something that you would find at like the very bottom of your libraries. Like, this hasn't been a book that's been lent out since like 1962 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's like the biggest reach that I've ever had in terms of comparison humor, but that's just what sprung to my mind anyway. Claude says, there is an overwhelming number of European firm-breasted spits. You see, he beat me to the joke, probably. He beat me to the joke. I was going to make that joke and be like, oh, I'm really funny. Oh, I'm really on top of this. I really know what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, fucking Claude, of course, consummate professional that he is, he's got to run out in front of me and just steal it away. Jeez, Claude. How could you do that? Whoa, Mod says. Is Aiden addicted to streaming now? Yeah. Unlike, you know what, though? I think I'm making progress, though. Because unlike most addicts, you talk to most addicts in the early phase, You know, like you start seeing the signs of addictive behavior, which you're seeing with me right now. I can't deny it. You know, I'm going to be spending some time with my fiance. She's got the day off, but I've been spending a little bit of time doing this today as well. And why? Because A, she's had a couple of things that she's got to take care of herself. You know, we've all got our own things going on today. I had the museum and all that. But top of that, this is just a good time. I love hanging out with you guys. This shit's great. BS says, I wonder if he got I wonder if he got his $10. You know, BS, if you want to send me $10, then I'll definitely have $10 at that point. You wouldn't be able to deny it because you would have the financial record at that point. So if you want to send me $10, you'd be able to claim forevermore that you were the first Aiden Linden patron at that point, wouldn't you? Like, who's the first person to patronize Michelangelo? None of you people know. I'm not going to pretend like I know either. But at the same time, probably created some pretty cool shit, didn't he? That could be you, BS. That could be you. Except instead of Michelangelo, you get like, I don't know. I couldn't even say the Ninja Turtle version of Michelangelo because he's way cooler than I could ever hope to be. Speaking of, any of you ever want that Ninja Turtle pizza? You know what I'm talking about. That Ninja Turtle pizza, which has got like the best cheese pull on any pizza that you've ever seen in your life. It's like literally like the goopiest, droopiest pizza that you've ever seen in your life. And I'm not even somebody that's for that. 90% of the time, you give me a goopy, droopy little pizza, I'm not going to be eating that shit. But I'll tell you what, Ninja Turtles come up, they give me fucking Ninja Turtle pizza, I'm eating that shit. Because that shit looks good as hell. Kelly says, stream marathon, let's go. That's right, dude. Fuck yeah. We're on this shit, dude. I'm locked in. Isn't that what the kids say nowadays? I'm locked in right now. Link is out there for anybody that wants to join. No problem if you don't want to join. I totally get it. Been doing some pretty rapid fire streams over the last few days here. So if you don't want to join at the moment, I totally get that. Mod throws up. Look, Mod, if you're going to throw up in the side chat, I'm just going to tell you right now, you got to clean up your own mess, okay? I'm not going to be cleaning up your mess. You got to go take care of that. I'm not responsible. Spooky, shout out to Spooky, eyeballing it in the chat, lurking it up. Always got to appreciate the lurkers, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. Spooky comes in hot every once in a while with a really good comment. But you just know 90% of the time, Spooky's lurking out there. He's hanging out. And that's why he's spooky. Because his presence, it's just kind of felt, you know? Terry says, hit like. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. We've got our first stream participant that's come into the room. The one, the only Monsieur Baz. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I was going to be Terry today. Oh, I want to learn how to serve my man.
Well, I'll tell you what. If there's anybody that's going to teach you how to serve a man, it's going to be somebody that's been with 5 women, huh, Hovind?
Oh, dear.
You Canadians call ham American bacon. You know what? BS. I'm sick of that slander. I'm sick of that. Our bacon is better than yours. And the fact that you're gonna sit out here and act like that paper thin nonsense is anywhere near as good as ours, I think you're lying to yourself. I think you're lying to yourself just as much as Missing Maud is lying to herself when she says that she doesn't want to be Mrs. Hoven number 7 or whatever it is on the list. I've lost count at this point, truth be told. There's been so many of them. But
Terry says she doesn't sound like that. But you see, it's a Frenchman doing an impression of Terry. It's not as good as a Canadian doing an impression. That's the problem.
I mean, listen here, Terry, okay? You can't always expect
perfection. That's not a very reasonable expectation. Okay, sweetie. You just need to like tamp that down a little bit, okay?
Well, I'm never going to try again.
I don't know.
You know, what I did, when I said about that biblical justice or whatever, I did do a little clip about, because recently there's some threats to shall we say, eliminate or whatever certain protesters in a certain country,
Yes.
and it's going to be by removing their life. I'm trying not to say words that change.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
But I've got also put alongside a certain chap who calls himself a pastor and has a surname of Anderson, and discussing with Kent, what deserves that ultimate penalty. And it's everything from cursing your parents to being of a different orientation, shall we say, and they're serious. So there's actually not too much difference. If people that hope for some sort of religious law or something, or say that's what the founding fathers wanted, they wanted the opposite, because it's just a terrible thing, religious law, on whichever side you look, I think, anyway.
No, I agree. I think that the idea that it should be something that is imposed on these children in any way, shape, or form is something that is definitely abhorrent and something that should not be encouraged. I mean, every single time that Ken Hovind has ever made the claim that they're trying to indoctrinate these children into believing a certain set of things, then really it's just his projection, because his religion couldn't perpetuate itself on the numbers that it has right now if it didn't proselytize to all these children and didn't preach to all these children and indoctrinate all of these children at a young age. And I mean, if you want to try to make the same claim about something like evolution, then why is it that even though plenty of these Christians weren't exposed to evolution growing up, they end up adopting the ideas that are expressed within evolution and saying that they're scientifically accurate? I mean, the majority of Christians nowadays ascribe to the idea that evolution is scientifically accurate. And I think that the idea that you can't have those things coexist with each other, when you have somebody like Kent, it's not much of a surprise why he would say that, because he's built his entire brand, for lack of a better term. He wants to call it a ministry. And, yeah, you can call it that if you want, but I would say it's more closely associated with the kind of terminology with the brand. And his brand is entirely based on anti-evolution. And I brought that up at the very beginning of my second debate with him, not in a really like an insulting way or anything like that, but I just said, you can't convince a man not to believe something that his profession depends upon him not believing. And he didn't have any kind of response to that, except basically to go, oh, well, I can't see your face right now, so that makes you equally untrustworthy too. It's like, I'm pretty sure that being consistent with your own ideas and being willing to adopt new and different ideas depending on where the evidence goes is a lot more consistent than being willing to show your face, which I just happened not to at that point because I didn't have a webcam. But I think everyone in this community has seen my face at some point or another. It's not something that I'm trying to hide or cover up or anything like that. Some people just don't like going around on webcam all the time. It's just the way that some people operate. And people like Ken, I've seen him do that all the time with people. If they don't show their face when they interact with him, he'll bring it up a whole bunch of times like that's somehow an argument against what they're saying. And it isn't. It's just a load of crap. But I'll let you talk. Sorry, I've just been wobble, wobble, wobble. Maybe I'll let Claude actually say.
Oh, no, I don't mind. I'm not one of these ones desperate to talk and cut in and stuff. So honestly, I'm pretty easy. But it's quite funny because Terry says, I'm not going to try and do her accent, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I say, well, that didn't work out too well for Kent, did it?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I would say that that wasn't exactly proven to be the case, which you'd have to say at that point that either the Bible was inaccurate in saying that, or that Kent wasn't following the Bible in the way he was supposed to when he did that. And unfortunately, there's loads of Christians out there that want to say that neither of those things are true. And it's like, well, one of them has to be.
But I don't want to make this show about Kent because I know it.
No. You know what? I've always said that if anybody wants to come on, as long as they're not presenting, if they're not saying things that I think are going to get the channel taken down, or are trying to just be intentionally super like offensive to certain groups of people, then I really don't care where the conversation goes. I was saying to you in the comments section, and I figured I'd say it to the community as well. If I had a single goal for this channel, it'd probably be to try to get back to how things were before. Right now we're living in a day and age where we got all these people running around on these different channels. They think, oh, I got a voice too. People like this Aiden Linden fella. Who the hell does he think he is? I don't think so. He's riffraff. No, but I do want to bring things back a little bit to a more open form of dialogue where we're not necessarily taking things always as seriously, but we can go there at times if we need to, and I think that'll be a little bit refreshing.
Well, I quite like it, actually. I mean, now, you've got Achilles come on here, Proverbs guys come on here.
It's true.
Possibly because their own channel is failing, but I won't say that's provocative. And
a little bit.
Just a little bit. I withdraw that, but you can go and numbers
you
for yourself.
Speak your mind. Speak your mind.
And it is quite good to have it. Even though I've got fundamental, and no doubt you do, some fundamental differences with them. Well, occasionally it's good to have a bit of a laugh and a chat and think. But I don't think I'm ever going to change their minds somehow. But you never know.
It's true. When you really think about it, all these people out here like, oh, I'm such a conservative. Oh, I love Donald Trump. Oh, I'm such a conservative. I'm on the right wing. I'm the real conservative in the context of this community when you really think about it, because all of y'all are trying to talk about, oh, these high-minded economic policies, these things that none of you can even affect or change in any significant way. I'm trying to conserve the only thing that really matters around here, dagnabbit. And that's the integrity of this here community. And that's why you should elect me president of Proverbs Guys Ministries. That's right. I'm using this stream to begin my official campaign. I am starting my campaign for the Proverbs Guys Ministries. You think that Dan is the right kind of man to be your president? Well, I'm out here to tell you, no, he's not. I'm here to provide real change to the Proverbs Guys Ministries. You think that the channel's seeing a new renaissance with these streams? Well, I'll tell you something, everybody out there. You haven't even seen the beginning of it. A brave new world is right on the edge of that horizon. And all that it takes is you to just reach out and grab it. And that's why you should elect Aiden Linden to be the official president of Proverbs Guys Ministries. I know there's rumors out there that he's going to turn it into an atheistic, communistic hellhole where everybody is just lined up against the wall that disagrees with him. Those rumors are a bunch of crap. I'm only going to do that to people that nobody notices. I'm not going to go and do that to everybody. Come on now. Like any regime has ever lasted long term just going around doing that willy-nilly. We got people like Big Bad Mama to come on here and endorse my run for presidency. Big Bad Mama, take it away.
Where do you stand on beaver videos?
On the topic of beaver videos, Big Bad Mama, I would have to say that 9/11 was bad, and that's what I have to say on the topic of beaver videos. That's good, right? That's good for politics.
Are you saying beaver dams are as high as the World Trade Center?
What I'm trying to say is, much like the World Trade Center, this beaver dam that is the Proverbs Guys Ministries has got a few holes in it, Big Bad Mama.
Oh,
And we've got to patch those holes before it collapses the entire thing. All right. What do you want? You want to be on building 7?
you're
Or do
not
you
going
want
to
to
get
be
yourself votes from those guys if you take that attitude.
Well, Ricky Gervais was saying on one of his Golden Globes, I just saw it again recently, he said that he hadn't personally seen Jodie Foster's The Beaver, and he didn't think that many guys had seen it either. So it was very out there.
How are you today, Big Bad
He
Mama?
wrote a film. She made a film. Yeah.
I'm doing good.
I don't think I'm going to get
Nothing
many votes
major
from
going
them
on
either.
today.
You know what I plan to do, though, Big Bad Mama? I plan to be the Jill Stein of the Proverbs Guys Ministries. I plan to just steal just enough votes away from Dan that Achilles sneaks in by just the margins. That's our ultimate strategy, is to just steal away a little bit of votes. Achilles is going to go on the stream.
Better than being the Jill of the Proverbs Guys.
Achilles is gonna go on the stream. He's gonna be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we need to stop this steal that is taking place right now with the Dan Posey. I am announcing that there is a coup that is taking place," and I'll back him. I'll tell you what, Achilles, if you have a Byzantine palace coup at the Proverbs Guys Ministries, I'll back you, bro. I'll be there.
No, I love Dan.
Jill Stein, is that?
I love Dan. He has his way of taking so much pressure off, because Claude can go for an hour there, and at the end of the whole thing, Dan can say, "Hey, look, squirrel," and then the whole thing just disappears in thin air.
Oh, missing Mod out here dropping serious shade.
Oh my god.
Big Bad Mama was Andrew from the Proverbs Guys busy. Wow. What do you got to say to that?
Explain what that means.
I would say if I was Andrew, I'd be super offended right now by that.
Can you
right now,
explain
I'm just, from my perspective, I'm just saying, well, consider the source. I mean,
I'd like to say that I'm honored for being
Big Bad Mama, I understand the joke. What's the joke there?
Yeah,
he's the guy that falls asleep on the videos.
I remember.
Andrew is stuck in between because on his left is Steven and on his right is Bolin, so he's always in the middle there, and it's a very tough spot.
That's a good joke, actually. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So, we're showing beaver videos. What we're doing?
Well, Achilles, I've got to ask you. We're a little bit under 2 hours out from you hosting this debate here. Is this the first ever debate that you've hosted? Well, I guess not. I guess you helped Steven host the Kent debate that I did.
Yeah, that was an official, a big one, which I had forgotten. The question you asked, I was like, I guess it is, but no, it's not. But under the radar, we've done it a couple of times, I guess, but not officially like this, where nobody ever told me that I'm moderating it, and then I am. Which I've done so much work here, literally nothing about this. So I don't know, I'll just go in and let them talk. And if somebody gets disrespectful, which I don't think they can, I mean, I don't think Steven could be disrespectful towards Robin, and Robin can be disrespectful towards Steven. So
I'd be shocked.
Yeah, the moderator is going to be
like. So is it on Yerba Mate Talks channel?
I don't know if if Robin has arranged that. I have no idea.
Okay, I mean, I did see a thumbnail for that on Yerba Mate Talks. I
Okay.
saw the Stephen and Robin thumbnail on there.
No, that means I might need a moderator for the chat. Somebody to be able to. Mr. Mod, you just picked up the job.
Sorry, there's something in my throat.
Are you guys having it on your channel too?
Yes.
Achilles? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
That's where I saw it. I saw it. It starts in 1.5 hours if it's on time, which never is, but of course. Hopefully it will be on time.
I know that yesterday Stephen put Bobby to sleep, but Stephen fell asleep first
Sorry to hear that.
before
Shut up,
Bobby.
Claude. Shut up.
So that's why we lost this big debate between Calvinism and Arminianism. I think is the opposite side. I think it is Arminianism. Which didn't happen.
This sounds fascinating. Anyway, no, I'm just joking.
What time is the debate?
And 1 hour and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The Yerba Mate Talks is the after show for the debate.
Oh,
Maybe.
you guys got your own after
I
show.
think. Don't quote me, but
Well, we'll quote you.
Big Bad
You're gonna
Mama.
say BBM said that. Hey, BBM, by the way,
I don't want any responsibility here.
I watched the video, the short that you told me to. Oh my God, how beautiful was that, man? It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's really pretty up there.
It blew my mind. It's like what I had in mind when all the stories and the fairy tales were talking about an oasis in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, totally.
Aiden and Claude, I don't know if you know what we're talking about, but go ahead and
my last nature short. I shot it.
Here, I'll play it. I'll play
out at a palm grove, a native palm grove. There's native palms in this part of.
And you see where water exists, how life is.
And
Big
it's
Bad
desert.
Mama.
I mean, the hills and yeah. Aiden?
Do I have your permission to play content from your channel on my
Sure,
channel?
of course, yeah.
You're not gonna strike me down or something.
This has been copyright claimed by Big Bad Mama.
No, you don't need to do that. I don't make any money from my channel, by the way.
Me neither. I'm old school.
Well, you should.
I started the channel before monetization existed, like at least 15 years before it did. My channel's up from 2005 or 6. Over there. Because back then it was just the only way to share a video with somebody. Like you wanted to. I went to a stadium, watched a match, and wanted to share the video, and there was no other way to do that. People now have TikToks. They get like one like after the other, like a machine gun.
I pay people to watch my channel, but I haven't.
Good.
I've just honored the check so far.
Yeah, I've been waiting on mine. What the hell, Claude? No, I'm gonna play Big Bad Mama's
Go for it.
nature short here. By the way, even though everybody that's watching this is already subscribed to Big Bad Mama, if you happen not to be, I know I'm gonna play it.
Thank you,
Aiden. If you're not subscribed to Big Bad Mama's channel and watching this, make sure that you do subscribe to Big Bad Mama's channel.
And Claude and Achilles.
Yep, I am. What are you wearing?
Just boots.
I love how that's the first thing you ask.
Just boots. What's up? What else?
You have to wear boots in this area.
It'd be very bold to take that. Just boots.
Did you swim?
I didn't swim this time, but I do swim.
What was that? I couldn't quite hear you. God, who the hell's running the stream? You can turn the volume down. Jesus.
Oh, you missed the water effect.
I'll go
Oh,
back.
he didn't miss it. He got it.
I think we understood it. Yeah.
All right, all right.
Hold on.
But it sounds so different on when you're close to the waterfall. I mean, you missed out now,
Yeah.
bro.
Oh man.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Thanks, Aiden, for playing that.
No, I'll go back. Hold on.
No, don't go back.
Full volume.
Cool.
Full volume.
Full
waterfall.
volume.
There we go. Isn't that great, Aiden?
You sound like you're there, Achilles.
I mean, I don't know how you could actually resist just jumping in that water.
I dunked my
yeah.
head about 5 times.
Okay. I had
That
an
feels
idea how you
really
can.
good.
I bet
January. Yeah, that would be a good point.
it'd be quite rejuvenating, I imagine.
Or freezing.
Hey,
That
I mean, in
stream
the desert,
is dry, for a good portion of the summer. For sure, it's dry. So it's really nice to go when there's water like that.
You know, I've had a big argument with riding industry. I've had many, but one of them was there was one day there was a race that was called River, and the race was not about crossing the river a couple of times. It was about going with the river, like following the river at the riverbed.
right?
But at some spots it was too deep, so you had to go around it and then meet it again. So by a very weird coincidence, I didn't pick up my bag with the water, and I told myself, well, the race is called River, so I will be able to drink from the river. What I realized was that when you have 100 bikes going with the river, you destroy the water. Like
Yeah.
there's a difference between crossing it once, even if it's 100 bikes, but if you go with the river and the carburetors the cables are always in the water, it's not drinkable anymore. And what are we doing to nature with races like that?
Yeah, that's not good. That's very destructive. And there's also underwater plants and critters that are living there that if you're using the river as the track, you're destroying everything in those tracks.
Yeah, and all those plants that live at the shore of the river, they're just receiving a very good shock of gasoline with oil. And yeah, they didn't like that much. I got silenced on the issue. But yeah, we're not that careful. Now things are kind of changing. Carburetors are no longer allowed on the mountain. Only EFI engines are allowed.
Oh, that's good.
And in the US, you can't ride almost anywhere anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Mama, can I suggest a piece of music to accompany your shot would be Handel's Water Music. It's quite good. I try not to listen to it when I'm going to sleep because it can create other problems, but it would be good for that shot.
Yeah. Okay.
Spooky, you calm the hell down over there in the side chat, or you're going to be the first ever ban on the Aiden Linden channel. All right, you calm the hell down.
What's he doing?
I know I earned my rent.
Only people Aiden has slept with get a rent.
I earned my rent, but I don't think that's the right time to say that.
You did earn it. That's true. You got the reference right, and Big Bad Mama got all salty about it. Yeah, that was an ageist reference, Aiden. I was 62 when that movie came out.
That movie was not on my radar at all.
That's fair. I mean,
How could it not? I mean, we didn't have like
It's a kid's. You watch it when you're a kid and you're fond of it as an adult. But when you're already an adult and it comes out, it's not like, yeah, I'm waiting for the next Macaulay Culkin vehicle.
They're definitely not waiting on the next, but it was a
I'm
very
watching like
surprising.
Werner Herzog movies, and and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch Home Alone 2.
Hey, Home Alone 2 is good. Don't you dare besmirch that movie.
But those
I
days
miss the whole franchise.
Home Alone 3 sucks. I have no problem trashing Home Alone 3 with you.
Home Alone 3.
They've gone all the way up to 5, I think.
Oh my god!
I think they did, yeah. Well, they stopped using Macaulay Culkin after 2, so it just didn't even make any sense to keep going after. You know what? I've already said this before, but Home Alone 3 is the movie that made me realize that movies could be bad. And that's pretty impressive, actually, because like I had just gotten through the first 2 with my family at Christmas. We had done like a little marathon and I loved them. And they were like, yeah, we have the 3rd one too. And I was like, oh my God, this is great, because I legitimately to this day think the 2nd one is better than the 1st one. I'm more nostalgic for the 1st one, but the 2nd one is a better movie in my opinion. And I was like, it's even better for the 3rd one. And I literally got not even 10 minutes into that movie. And I just told my parents, I was like, can we watch something else?
Mom.
Yeah. Like,
this movie sucks.
Yeah, like this is bad. I didn't
Plus, you were 22 years old.
Oh yeah, which one am I, Big Ben? Which one am I? Am I 15 or am I freaking a 48-year-old man living in a studio apartment in freaking Milwaukee right now?
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
You live in an apartment alone.
You're lonely. Oh God.
That's not something you hear from Big Bad Mama all that often. Just pure despair. Yeah, there we go. How's everybody doing today? Achilles, what are you up to?
I'm gonna go because I need to be a balanced moderator, which means that I'm gonna go backstage, talk with Steven a little bit.
Cool. You guys are cool, by the way. Like, you guys are all right.
Yeah. I mean, it is very hard for me to, whatever happens with Steven, it's very hard to keep a grudge. But when it comes to yesterday, especially, he fell asleep. With just me and you and Christian were hyped, but he was working so many hours. It's pretty hard to be hyped about a Calvinism. Like,
you guys did the Calvinist debate yesterday?
No, we
talked about it.
But...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, working in physical labor, making him tired at the moment.
And when you are you're working all day and somebody even says the word Calvinism, you go like,
yeah.
Big Bad Mama feels like that, and he's retired. So.
Well, I mean, from the atheist perspective, it's like, okay, you're a Calvinist or not a Calvinist. Well, both of them are wrong.
You believe unicorns are pink, and he believes
that's
unicorns
what
are green.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I said to Hope, and is arguing what's it called? Pre-trib versus post-trib is like arguing whether leprechauns are green or blue. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know it's interesting to you guys.
We all get the right to have an opinion.
I primarily find it interesting because of how much it shapes our society and how many people find these issues to be really important. That's the primary reason why I like engaging in theological discussions and debates so much.
I think it would be interesting, though, if the people had a little, and I'm not saying anybody in this community, but the people had a little more of a historical context that they introduced into the argument.
Oh, yeah. That is, I believe, a great point. Because a lot
rather
of people...
rather than just acting like they're the first ones that have come up with this interpretation, it's like, how did this interpretation, where did you get it from?
Right.
Well, I did that on Iconoclasm not that long ago. I did like a whole deep dive into like why it came about.
Yeah, we remember because we all fell asleep.
Thanks, Achilles. I appreciate it. Thank you.
But
I
Aiden,
want to see people do that, but when they do that, I'm going to fall asleep.
but Aiden, if you would only even pretend that you have become a Christian, can you imagine the whole level of debates that opens up for you that you can take part
That's
in?
true.
Think about it.
I mean, I have no problem debating like Christological issues and theological issues. I literally like had it out with people like Tim all the time when he was on here.
I'm jumping into this conversation cold, but
Hi,
I
Daniel.
actually came with a question for Aiden, which might be related.
Ooh.
Of all the religions out there, of all the depictions of God,
Right.
wouldn't you want to worship the God who actually suffered for us, who actually was brave enough to come into the world as a man, as a child, and suffer on the cross for us, and to wash our feet and everything else he did?
I mean, like, I've said it before and I'll say it again, right? Like, the primary thing that I've had an issue with is not just having to do with the issues that we've talked about before, right? The idea that there's this entity out there that's going to give me this eternal life and that I'm not going to die, and just immediately cease to exist, and that there's something beyond that. Yeah, that's all super compelling. Yeah, that sounds super interesting. And I'd be largely in on that. As a matter of fact, if the God of the Bible existed, I'd be pretty stupid not to worship him, because the alternative is pretty well known to exist. And I'd rather not go to hell and burn for all eternity, or be annihilated, whichever one you interpret to be the case. So it's primarily just, the lack of evidence as far as I'm concerned. So that's like the main primary hurdle that I have.
Okay.
I think that people that like the atheists that are like, even if God existed, I wouldn't even worship him. I think that they're kind of like, no.
But here's a small mistake concerning the answer you give to Daniel. You respond to what would happen if I didn't worship that God according to this book. But Daniel's question was like, isn't that the most awesome one?
I already acknowledge, like, yeah, it sounds awesome.
I mean, from the
cool, it sounds
Can
compelling.
I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, Big Bad Mama.
Yep.
So
I gotta go, guys. I gotta go. I'll watch this.
Take care, Achilles. Take care.
Have fun. See you in a bit.
See ya.
Wouldn't you want the God that was most inclusive of everything in the universe?
Not inclusive on everything. No, there's a lot of evil.
Yeah, but God created that evil in your religion.
No, God gave us free will, and so we choose evil.
Okay. Well, let me finish. So I would think the most desirable God would be one that you are melted into, or that you become one with. So in your religion, it would be Christ, becoming one with Christ consciousness, for example.
Well, that sounds kind of new agey, but yeah, we become one with Christ, but we still maintain our individuality.
But if you found out somehow that you melt into God when you die, you're not a separate entity from God, would you be comforted by that, Daniel?
So from the Orthodox perspective, you still maintain your individuality. You're still who you are. You actually become.
No, but he's asking you to divorce yourself from that.
Right.
So that I would be erased, basically?
No, you're still you, but you're also part of God at the same time, and part of everything else at the same time.
He's asking if that notion is something that you would find to be comforting.
I'm not sure if the notion's in line with what I already believe or not, because
it
sounds like
asking.
Yeah, I know it's not in line with what you believe, because I think most Christians believe that they keep a certain sense of their ego after they die, which I would maintain we don't have after we die. But I was just, if you do melt, your consciousness melts into Christ consciousness, is that something that you would find? Is that like abhorrent to you, or would you find that comforting if that was reality?
Well, if I lost my identity altogether and I ceased to be who I am, then it would be like I kind of died anyway. It's just
Okay.
like my energy would be like maintained or something. But that's like, you know, a lot of atheists think that's what's going to happen anyway. They're like, well, my material will go into other animals and stuff, and they feel comforted by this. But like, you wouldn't really be you if you didn't exist anymore. If like by ego you just mean like everything that you are like is just kind of
Yeah.
completely subsumed
But,
consumed into the God. Yeah, that
but
would not be comforting to me. No.
I mean, as an atheist, I also believe that we are our relationships on the planet as well, and that after we die, those relationships that we had an impact on still go on in that respect. And it's not us as
Yeah.
a body or mind, but it's us as an influence.
So how do you have a relationship with a person when that person no longer exists?
Well, I'm
Because
talking
like,
about the people that do exist, the things that are in your world now.
yeah. Yeah, but you're saying like if your ego is gone, then you wouldn't have those relationships anymore, because it's not like Dan loves Big Bad Mama because Dan no longer exists. His ego's gone.
Well, I'm saying when you do exist, you have relationships here in your life presently. And that if you died tomorrow, those either good relationships or, you know, what people would term bad relationships, those keep going because they outlive you as a person, right? Does that make sense?
In what sense?
You're not present, but that influence you had on other people, whether you brought joy to their lives or if you brought misery to their lives, they carry that joy and misery that you shared. They carry that on into their life beyond. You've died, you know, you just died yesterday, but your relationship with, say, one of your siblings, and they you've had such a great influence on them and they had a great influence on you, and you had a positive relationship, they would still carry those positive vibes forward beyond you.
Okay.
Does anybody understand what I'm
Yeah, no,
I'm tracking.
get
I'm
what you're
tracking. I
saying.
just don't understand the question yet.
Okay.
But I'm tracking what
Okay.
you're saying.
Well, that's how you answered my question. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, like, the idea that there's going to be a legacy. I mean, I've spoken about this before. I think that every single person that's ever lived, I think whether you're talking about Alexander the Great or Socrates or Julius Caesar or anybody like that, or me or you, you know, I think everyone is eventually going to reach a state where there's not going to be one single person that's around that knows about them or knows of their existence. And on a level that's kind of terrifying, like, to think about that eventually you're going to essentially be forgotten about by everybody and everything. And the idea that that's actually not the case, and that there's like this book of life that's out there that's you're going to be accounted for in, and that you're going to actually be given this like new eternal identity, like that all sounds very appealing.
It's
But
comforting.
at the same time, I don't necessarily know if I could say that that's true, because I don't have anything to account for it being true. And at the same time, just because that's comforting, I think at the same time, the idea that you not ever having somebody know about you at one point in the future also kind of makes things a little liberating at the same time. Because that just means that your identity really is the purest form and essence of being yours and yours alone, and that your experiences and what you have gone through in your life, the tapestry that is your memories, you know, those things are things that can never be taken away from you. And I've had this conversation, even if people, even if you have Alzheimer's and you're sitting in a home and you don't even remember who you are, that doesn't mean that you didn't take that hike that one time.
Right.
Or you didn't go on that one adventure down in Bolivia when you were prompted to go do that. And yeah, you could have went to work that week, but you decided, hey, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go do this because I think it's going to do something that really shapes my experience. That's yours. And no one can ever take that away from you. And I think that kind of taps in to a certain essence of what it means to be human and what it means to be alive.
What do you mean that, like, if you don't remember it, how can you say nobody's taken it from you? Because you don't have those memories anymore. So they
You don't have
been
the
taken.
memory, but that doesn't mean that that thing still didn't happen. That doesn't mean
but
that
who
that
knows?
experience, who knows, is irrelevant, because no one's ever going to know about anything at one point in the future. Whether someone knows about whether it happened or not is ultimately irrelevant in that context, because it still happened, and in that context,
And that event
you
had
still
ripples
experienced it
into the real world. So that event, whether you hiked with somebody else, say, and they carried those memories forward, or just the fact of getting there in your automobile, or you're affecting the world at that moment in time in various ways. And so that happened regardless of if later you remember it, right?
I don't know. Like, without a God that sees all things, I don't really think these things can even be said to exist if nobody knows about them. Because, like, who's to say it actually happened?
I mean,
if I can chip in,
go ahead.
Who wants an all-knowing, all-powerful, jealous God supervising them every day of their life? Who cares about, who they interact with, what position they have sex in, with who they have? I mean, it's just, why would you want that? And then who wants to be praised all the time? It's just. Yeah,
I mean, that is true as well. On the other end of, as Dustin would famously say, on the other end of the equation, there is the fact of the matter that if the God of the Bible exists, then this is a God that handcrafted and shaped the Andromeda galaxy and every quasar that you've ever seen, and the tapestry and beauty of this entire universe around you, but he still cares about whether or not you cheat on your spouse, or whether or not you fornicate, in period. Like, he still cares about all these little tiny things, even though he's created this gigantic, sweeping, amazing universe of which we are such a tiny, insignificant portion of which. I just kind of flies against that when you look at traditional biblical cosmology. That's not the way that we conceptualized ourselves at all. We were the center of everything in biblical cosmology. Everything was created for us. It's explicitly stated that all of it was created for us. And yet, Daniel, we'll never see the Andromeda galaxy.
We do. That's how you can talk about it.
No, but we'll never be there is what I mean. We and you, or none of us.
What would you want to do in the Andromeda galaxy?
None of us
do you
is
think
a
there's
species.
life? Do you think there's life beyond the Earth, Daniel?
I don't know.
But what does your intuition tell you, regardless of what Christianity says?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it tell you that there's other planets that are out there, say in the Andromeda galaxy? I mean, not much less the Milky Way, but aren't there like a lot of planets out there that have life in one form or another?
That's what they say, but that's what they have to say for evolution to make sense.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, evolution could be limited to just the Earth, but it's not what I think. But
there is, I would be perfectly willing to concede that there is a possibility that the conditions for life are literally so specific that they could have only arisen within our solar system. As a matter of fact, there's certain evidence to state in science that our solar system is pretty abnormal. Typically, when you look at other solar systems, you'll
That's
find
right.
that
The assumption was the opposite, because we like to think
planets
we made a philosophical decision as like science makes these almost like unconscious philosophical decisions, and they decide to make the philosophical decision that we are normal, that this is baseline. But it turns out that this might not be baseline at all, what we have here on Earth. It like Aiden said, they're finding out more and more about like our region in the Milky Way, like how actually very, very conducive to life, maybe just our current circumstances. There's a lot that we're learning, and so much that we learn, we find out that like all of our assumptions before, like, actually were wrong.
Well, what do you mean by baseline? Because I don't think that I haven't seen any scientists say that the conditions for Earth or something that they would expect to see all over the place. As a matter of fact, the scientific consensus up until about the late 1990s, until we had definitive proof of exoplanets, was actually wide skepticism that exoplanets even existed in the first place. If you look at the academic consensus regarding that, it wasn't to say that the academics were just totally dismissive of the idea, but it took a lot of definitive evidence to even have the idea of exoplanets taken seriously in the academic field. So I disagree with the notion that there was this idea that Earth was viewed as the baseline and that everything else should be seen mimicking it. But at the same time, what we observe in the universe isn't as simple as just saying, well, the majority of things that we observe aren't conducive to life, therefore there isn't life all over the place. There still could be life all over the place. And why? Because the universe is fucking gigantic. And there's literally so many different stars out there. Yes, at the same time as the fact that the majority of stars are binary or trinary systems, and the majority of stars host hot Jupiters around them that are actually closer to the orbits of their stars than Mercury is to ours, and therefore wouldn't be able to have habitable life around them due to the conditions that that would create. Even though all of those things are true, we still see really good and habitable places in our universe for life to take place. For example, K-type stars are actually better candidates for hosting life than our star. And the reason why that's the case is because K-type stars live longer. They don't emit nearly as much solar radiation at as violent of a rate as our sun. And they have a much wider habitable zone than our sun. And therefore, while there are other G-type stars like our sun out there that would be perfectly capable of hosting life, there are also other stars that could be even better at it. Now, there's other conditions that need to line up as well. The fact that we have a moon as large as we do relative to the mass of our planet is abnormal, even in the context of our solar system. We can't see any other example in the solar system except maybe Pluto and Charon at the very edge of the solar system, where there were any kind of mass similarities to be found within a planet and its moon within the same system. But that's not to say that those conditions couldn't have existed elsewhere, or that those conditions didn't exist earlier in our solar system. For example, Phobos and Mimas, the moons of Mars that we currently observe, there's really good definitive evidence to show that those are actually remnants of a larger moon that once existed and itself was broken up into the remnants that we see nowadays, and that many of those remnants would have escaped elsewhere into the solar system. So even in the context of our solar system, the amount of time that life has been habitable on this Earth has really been quite notable, but not necessarily entirely unique. There was a time where Venus could have hosted life, where Venus, there's definitive evidence that Venus was once an oceanic planet, that it once had oceans. The same with Mars. Mars once had oceans as well. We haven't found life on them yet. We very well could. I'm not saying that they couldn't exist. The amount that we've actually explored these planets is absolutely minuscule compared to any kind of real thorough kind of expedition or survey that we have in terms of the data density on Earth. But we're making progress in those things. And what we have been able to see is that there are these different places in our solar system where life could have existed. Titan, right now, the moon of Saturn, could have life on it right now because it's the only other body in our solar system besides Earth that has liquid in large quantities on its surface. Now, it's not liquid water.
It's methane.
It's ethane and propane and things like that. Yeah. It's essentially what's commonly referred to as rocket fuel to the general public. And that's largely.
I mean, isn't it just the combination of water with a liquid core and creating volcanism? These are the things that led to life on Earth. And I don't know that I think that there still would have been life even if the moon didn't exist. I still think there'd be life.
That's the thing. Like,
we're still in the Goldilocks zone, and we've discovered so many planets that are also in their Goldilocks zone of their. Aiden was kind of referring to them, but I just think it's really I don't know how to put it. Somewhat self-centered that we are the only life in the universe. Now I know that that's, this is all the life that we know at this point, but I think there's going to be discoveries in the future.
Good science is supposed to be based on evidence, right?
It would be truly shocking if
it is based on
only
evidence.
life.
Yeah, but I mean, the evidence is that there are other planets that are in the ideal Goldilocks zone in their solar systems, and so we are finding that evidence. Now, it's not life itself.
So the assumption is that life can just kind of, abiogenesis, like evolution says, this life can just kind of start.
It's volcanic gases and minerals, and I mean, minerals self-replicate. Complex organic molecules are common in natural systems, at deep sea vents, for example. And so it just happens because those circumstances are ideal, but it's a combination of that volcanism, those gases, and the water that's present, that life is able to. Life, I think, is more common than people think, because I think those elements are natural to a lot of solar systems. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Claude.
Daniel, just to ask if is your sort of concern that I think, like Kent says, that Mary is the mother of all living things. I think that's a Bible thing. Is that what is your concern, that if there was life on other planets, that would sort of override that verse, or you're not too worried about that?
Ken Hovind said, but what about Mother Mary?
He said that Mary is the mother of all the living things, and therefore there can't be life on other planets. Do you follow to that or not?
Mother Mary isn't the mother of all living things. That's crazy. That's actually, like, we would even say in the Orthodox, and we love Mother Mary, but we'd say that's heretical. Like, she's not the mother of all living creatures. That's not at all.
I might have got that wrong. Just
not at all true.
Eve, maybe
Kent
Eve
Hovind is not an Orthodox, Claude, so he could have said it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he worships Mary as a god. I don't know. That's pretty crazy.
But I think he's trying to take a Bible quote somewhere and apply that to the universe. And I think that's what Claude was asking, if that's where you might get your belief, Daniel. But it sounds like
it's more of a lack of evidence. So, like, I would say Galileo talked about many worlds, and so many other scientists very early on. I don't think this is a new idea at all to believe in many worlds, but there's the Fermi paradox. So, like, if evolution were the truth, then complex life would have to happen at the levels of the universe, at absurd levels. And the fact that there's nobody out there, there's no techno signatures anywhere, that's kind of strange.
Well, there's no techno signatures that we have been able to find. But once again, when you look at the Fermi paradox, this is something that I've done a lot of studying in my
this is what I was hoping that I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this up. I really appreciate that. So the Fermi paradox has a number of different ways of being dealt with. One of them is great filters. So there's this idea that there are certain great filters that life has to go through in order to be able to get anywhere near to the point where we are at right now. And I think that you can find through things like the fossil record, through things like ice core data, through radiometric carbon dating, I think you can find that largely bears itself out, that there were times in this planet's history where life did in fact nearly face extinction entirely. There were mass extinction events. I think there was at least 7 of them. It could have been more, but I think that there was 7.
About the Younger Dryas.
Don't quote me on that. Yeah, well, like the last one was the one that occurred 65 million years ago, or 66 million years ago, with the wiping out of the dinosaurs, right? So,
well,
there have been a number of.
We're in the middle of a mass extinction right now.
The Holocene extinction event.
The Holocene extinction,
yeah. But there's been a number of times in this planet's history where life has almost been entirely wiped out. And I think that it bears out then, at least in our example that we see here, that there were a number of times, and I think the most recent one, even beyond just the Holocene, were I would argue things like the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, the fact that we've developed these nuclear weapons and there's these suspicions that exist between these two superpowers that could wipe each other out and could maybe not wipe out all of humanity, but at the very, very least send it back to essentially the Stone Age for the next 1,000 or so years and totally reset it. So I think the idea that there's so many different hoops that life has to jump through until it gets to the point where we're at now means that the amount of life that exists out there that could be this complex would be quite rare. There's also the idea that the universe could actually only now be reaching the appropriate age in terms of the amount of elements available in it. We can see, thanks to the fact that, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Kent Hovind and their like don't agree that the speed of light is consistent across the history of the universe. They think that, well, God stretched the heavens and therefore 13 billion light years away from us doesn't necessarily mean that that light came to us 13 billion years ago.
Well, I do have some sympathy for the variability of the laws of physics, because I think they're finding that that has happened before and it will happen. Like we've actually, the scientists have discovered that we're in a false vacuum state right now. So it's actually the laws of physics as we know it don't have to be the way that they are. And they probably they were different earlier in the universe. It's the only way to explain how there can be like older stars than the Big Bang. Like something is very wrong about our assumptions. Well, and dark matter, dark energy, dark flow. These are all just terms that we put for our own ignorance. It actually makes a lot more sense that there might have been some variability.
We know properties of dark matter and dark energy. We just don't know what it is, but we definitely know properties of that.
And if there's,
so it's not,
and if
there's
there's
not like we're completely
maybe,
making
not properties.
something up.
Just really quick.
Properties you'd need to know like more about like what is the force carrier and all that. Like you could maybe guess it's neutrinos or something.
We can do math based on those things.
We can, and also on top of that, light, like the speed of light, is one of the few, or is it one of the universal constants? Wait, maybe
constant.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna double check that. Give me 1 second.
I mean,
the speed of light in a vacuum is the universal constant. That's what they found. Not that the speed of light itself is a universal constant. It can be slowed down.
Oh yeah, stars. It takes thousands of years until it ever leaves the corona.
Well, that is because of a different phenomena.
It's going through plasma. It gets trapped.
It's because of the massive complexities that any given neutron needs to be able to reach before, or photon rather needs to reach before it ends up leaving the stellar corona. But all of that to say that I believe that there probably are other complex civilizations out there somewhere. But I believe that there's also a pretty decent possibility that this universe that exists right now has only recently gotten to the point where it even is able to develop life. Like we have been able to find, based on our astronomical data, that this star that we're currently living around, I think, is either a second or a third generation star.
I think it's a second generation star.
Let me double check that. Hold on. Let me just...
I'm not positive on that either.
Yeah, but it's a combination of the fact that we've only recently invented instruments that can measure those
third generation star.
Oh, it's a third? Okay.
Yeah, third.
And also the huge distances between stars also hinders us from finding detections of life elsewhere. The distances are massive.
I mean, the closest one to us is Proxima Centauri, and that at the very
4 to 5 light years or something.
Yeah, it's like 4.5 light years away from us, I believe.
And if you want to go to the next galaxy, of which there are what is it, 2 trillion galaxies? If you want to go to the nearest one, it's just 25 million light. It's an unbelievable distance, you know. So,
yeah, but there's ways to get around this. So, like, if you had an advanced enough civilization that could colonize near the black hole, you would actually have relative time effects where if you send out a probe, you would get the data from it in your own lifetime. Because
the ability to be able to get anywhere close to a black hole, let alone exploit its resources, is like a level of science fiction. That's like...
Not the resources, just the gravity well. So you wouldn't want to be too close to it. But there's a certain sweet spot where like time will actually run at a different pace.
Yeah, dilation. So, yeah, you're talking
exactly. And this would actually help a very ambitious civilization to put out von Neumann probes and be able to see the effects in their own lifetime, and not have to like wait, thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years for it to cross the galaxy.
That's not true, because the way that those relativistic forces work is actually in reverse. So it would seem like a very short amount of time for those that would be sending out said von Neumann probes, of which I am familiar with the idea that you see the galaxy with a number of von Neumann probes over a period of time. Now, under conventional means, you can see the Milky Way galaxy with von Neumann probes in about, I think they said like 2.5 million years was, I think, the last estimation that I saw, which is really brief.
It might even be less than that, honestly.
But what's the evidence for von Neumann probes?
I'm
reality.
Well, no. Like it's an idea that the Fermi paradox puts out that says that it's a possible way that humanity could in the future colonize vast swaths of space, could be to send these von Neumann probes to be able to investigate and basically get a kind of observation post around every star in the galaxy, which would be very valuable. And it's essentially asking, well, if we've come up with that idea and we only have the limited technology that we have now, well, why don't we see these von Neumann probes all over the place? Because surely it stands to reason that some other civilization would have thought about this by now and would have done this. And, on the face of it, it seems like fairly solid logic. But what you were talking about with the whole black hole thing, it would seem like a very short period of time. I think Stephen Hawking talked about this as well with his example of the train going around the Earth. And I think his example was it would go around about 7 times every second. And if you got on that train, for you, it would seem like you were only on that train for a couple of weeks. But for everybody else around you, it would be like 200 years or so that would pass by. Maybe even more was what he had said. And you get off this train, and everybody that you know and everyone that you loved is all gone, and you basically are in a completely different world than what you got into some 2 weeks earlier. So it would actually be the opposite of what you're saying. Everything would go by really quick for those probes, but that civilization could have lived and died within that period.
Well, no. The civilization would be in this zone. They would send out the probes into the part of the universe that the relativistic effects would slow down. So, like for the probe, it would seem like thousands of years, but for the civilization living in those sweet spots, those sweet regions, it would be like within their lifetime they would get this data back.
The only practical with what we understand about black holes, the only practical application you could get around black holes would be if you sent probes around them. Because if you sent anything around a black hole that was living, I'm pretty sure that the Hawking radiation that it emits alone would be enough to kill basically anything without significantly advanced technology that we just don't even have any conceptualization of.
There's stable orbits. They're found that there's stable orbits around Sirius A. It absolutely could be habitable.
Sirius. Okay, you mean Sagittarius?
Sagittarius A. Sorry, I said Sirius A. Yeah, Sagittarius A.
Yeah, that's the core of our galaxy.
Yeah.
You realize that Sagittarius A has so many stars close to it around it.
It's the bulge, yeah.
Like if you lived there, you would have to have shades around your settlement that were more powerful than anything that we've ever conceived, because the light would be so blinding from all of these stars being so close to each other that it would just be the amount of radiation that all of those stars emit so close to each other. That's why we say that there's not only
free energy, Aiden.
That's why we say, though, that there's not only a Goldilocks zone just to the solar system, there's also a Goldilocks zone to our galaxy in terms of its resource distribution. Because if you're too close to the galactic center, there's such a clustering of stars close together that there's too much radiation being emitted for anything to really be able to last long enough. And if you're too far away from a galactic center, then the resource distribution gets so scarce that you're not able to form the kind of conditions where we have Earth-like planets that have all of these complex resources on them, which gets back to what I was saying earlier about how I think there's pretty compelling evidence over the idea that the universe has only recently even been able to host life in the first place. There wasn't the ability for first and second generation stars to create the elements that we currently see in our universe. There had to be other events like gamma ray bursts. There had to be hypernovae. There had to be supernovae, all of which had to fuse heavier and more complex elements as time went on. So there wouldn't have been, uranium or gold or tin or any of these really complex elements. Really nothing more complex than hydrogen, helium, and perhaps a little bit of lithium is what they've found to have existed at the very earliest stages of our universe. So the compounds that made up the very beginning of everything were very simple compared to now. And that's only after everything had cooled off from the plasmatic state that had existed up until about some 200,000 years after the Big Bang. So it's the universe that we live in right now is something that we conceive to not necessarily exist in a perpetuity either, right? Like this period where there's all these stars and galaxies and we see all this complexity all over the place. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of like the Big Crunch,
Yeah,
or things like that. But yeah, there's this idea that eventually, or the Big Rip, the idea that
or the deep freeze.
yeah. I think the Big Rip might be the one that I ascribe to, just because we can observe that things are being pulled apart faster and faster on a larger and larger scale on our in the universe. That's why we can see things accelerating, quote unquote, faster than the speed of light away from us, because it's not the object that's accelerating, it's the space between us and that object expanding due to the expansion of the universe. So there's an idea with the Big Rip that eventually that's going to speed up so much that even on the atomic level, nothing is going to be able to hold itself together and everything is just going to rip itself apart. I think that probably is going to be the case several 100 trillion or googillion years from now or something like that.
There's also, again, the false vacuum state. I think that's also pretty much a certainty that at some point we're going to go to the actual vacuum, like the real vacuum state of zero, like the lowest energy it could be at. In which case, the laws of physics, because that's a Higgs boson. So like that's what all the other particles are based on.
Right. We need to get shit together on Earth first before we go deal with another planet or species. I think that's such backward. I'm not saying this to be insulting. I'm really not. But I think that idea, not you, but I think that idea, Dean, is very backwards thinking.
Yeah, imagine what you could learn going to space. You'd learn how to actually use your resources properly.
Well, no, like colonization of space is thinking of Earth first, because the amount of resources available to you in space, the amount of habitable potential that exists within space, even if we just colonize the moon, which, by the way, we should be talking about way more before we colonize Mars. The moon has way more resources readily available to us than Mars. The moon is
closer too,
right at our doorstep. Yeah, we have instant communication with the moon. There's so much resources on the moon. Helium-3 is a great example, but there's still loads of other things: gold, platinum, titanium. There's all the resources that exist on Earth are there on the moon. We've talked about mining asteroids and comets and all those things. Well, look at the surface of the moon. It's pockmarked with millions of those things. It's literally a magnet that has attracted all of these different resources to it for billions upon billions of years. And it's right there in front of us. And we can go and grab those resources and bring them back here. And that is going to materialize.
But the price of going out there is massive.
It's
the
massive.
Price of setting that up is massive.
It pays
and
for
what Odin is saying is, it's easy for us to talk in Canada and the United States about going and exploring space and spending that money on, but there's people starving in the world. I mean,
right.
There's major environmental degradation going on right now that can leave the Earth a totally inhospitable planet.
Right. And how do we reduce mining on the planet? We expedite that mining elsewhere.
And who'd want to live on the moon? you know.
People
Who'd
would want to
that
live.
one?
People would want to live on the moon the same way that people want to live in Antarctica.
I mean, I don't want.
Because
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's easy for you to say that from Canada, and it's easy for us to say that from the United States, or Claude to say that even. But if you're living in, say, Paraguay, for example, and
right.
you know, how can you justify spending that amount of funds off the bat when there are people that, and I don't know, Paraguay's a bad example, but you know what I'm talking about. How can you justify spending that money up front to do that?
It's just like a mite compared to our military budget, honestly.
Yeah, but our military budget's way overinflated. I mean, we've discussed this before.
Can I respond though?
Yeah, go ahead.
We can justify that because the ability for humanity to be able to get those resources from the moon will enable us to be able to manufacture all of those things that are currently being manufactured by people in toilless, perilous, dehumanizing conditions on the planet. All of those things could be manufactured en masse in space on a scale that is unimaginable in the conditions that exist on this planet.
Okay, so give me an example.
So like an O'Neill
what's
cylinder.
the resource that we're talking about that we're going to go to the moon and mine?
So resources that exist on the moon are quite literally, think of a resource that exists on Earth. Besides
wood.
Things like, I was about to say, besides organic resources like wood, every single resource that exists on this planet exists on the moon. You have water that exists on the moon in the form of ice. You have oxygen that exists in the form of that water. You have every single mineral that you can possibly think of.
Tritium.
You have tritium, yeah. You have helium-3 that can be used for fusion reactors and can power the new burgeoning fusion industry, which can totally revolutionize the energy industry on this planet. And on top of all of that,
why couldn't we just use our water for fusion on this planet?
Because why would we waste water on this planet?
It doesn't take that much water to do fusion reactions.
Yeah, but do we have enough helium-3 for fusion reactions on this planet?
Good question.
We don't, from what I've read anyways. We don't have enough helium-3, and if we don't have a critical resource to be able to actually sustain that long-term here, we've got to go get that from somewhere else. It stands to reason. As a matter of fact, the helium supply on Earth in general is actually reaching a really critical level right now, but let alone helium-3. And that's all to say that the idea of constructing these factories is just a phase in a possible development of humanity. Have you ever heard of an O'Neill cylinder, Big Bad Mama? Go look into the O'Neill cylinder as an idea. It's essentially this orbital habitat that can be built and can sustain people.
Oh, that's like Mobile Suit Gundam.
Almost, except O'Neill cylinders are scientifically feasible. We could build these things if we had the willpower, if we had the resources, if we had the know-how, like to actually engineer all of these things in space, which is our biggest bottleneck right now. That's why we have such limited technological capabilities in terms of the James Webb Space Telescope. Why do we have these giant telescopes here on the planet when we only have these little telescopes up in space? Because we've got to launch everything up to space. You were saying it yourself, Big Bad Mama. Think of the huge upfront cost that takes. And I agree, that upfront cost is ridiculous. So how do we get rid of that upfront cost? We build infrastructure in space. And yes, that's going to have an upfront cost, but so does a road. You know, so does the toll.
I mean, that's not even a comparable.
They are absolutely comparable.
Price. The price is comparable of building a highway?
The price, I mean, name me one highway that leads to the amount of resources that the moon has available to it.
Yeah, but you're talking about building not only installations on the moon, but also space stations as well.
Correct. And that's going to be very
talking about building roads on the moon. So you're also talking about road building on the moon. Wouldn't a better solution be to decrease the population of our planet now and to try to rejuvenate our forests and our what we call resources on this planet?
How do you depopulate the world?
I believe. Well, hold
You-
on.
Like China's doing it is you have one kid or two kids, and then that's it.
They changed that. They found their population was decreasing too fast, so they changed
Yeah,
that. Now they're incentivizing them.
Well,
they
then
were facing
then
a
you do it
population
through
gap.
slower means to where it's you can do it, but there's ways to get smaller populations on the planet.
Okay. To respond to what you were saying, first and foremost, I don't believe that they'd actually need to build roads on the moon, if only because the gravity on the moon is low enough that I believe it would be actually cheaper to transport things through flight rather than it would be through traditional transportation. So you actually I don't think you would have to build roads in order to facilitate that. But how do we improve the material conditions so that we can have more forests on Earth? How do we improve material conditions so that the average life expectancy goes up? Well, we take all these mines that exist on the Earth and we put them in space. And we take all these all these giant farm fields that are destroying their local ecology, and we put them on O'Neill cylinders. And we move all of this infrastructure to somewhere so that we can make the conditions on this planet as idyllic as we possibly can. Because at that point, not to say that there really will ever be an age where we can totally remove all of that from this planet, but I think we actually could materially reduce those things, because the incentive, once that infrastructure is there to extract those things from the moon, is massive. There's nobody in the way on the moon. There's no environmental regulation that you have to worry about on the moon. You don't have to worry about leaching a whole bunch of harmful chemicals into the groundwater and poisoning a whole bunch of people. You don't have to worry about literally any regulation whatsoever. You can literally just strip mine it.
What about the Navi?
Possibly can. yeah. No, you can literally just strip mine the moon, and that will create such a massive incentivization to go and gather resources there rather than Earth, because then you don't have to deal with all those regulations. I agree with you that the upfront cost is massive, but I think that is definitely worth it.
The technology is not even there yet.
Yes,
even if we had them, I don't think so. To build these, the cylinders you're talking about?
Yeah, we could build those.
So this is, I think, the missing piece to all this is artificial intelligence and robotics is going to be the future of space exploration. I don't think it's going to be people mining these things. And I think that's also probably a little bit, if I'm going to give a fair shake to the Fermi paradox and not let my my religious convictions cloud that at all, I would say it makes a lot more sense that these advanced civilizations would not be organic anymore. There's no way that they could survive in those kind of conditions that space is going to throw at them.
To be clear, I'm not, if you go and look at like the images, like the really idyllic ones you see where it's like these like ringed habitats where there's like people playing in the park and stuff like that. Like, yeah, those are like super idealized versions of O'Neill cylinders. Really, really early versions, or even for the first several centuries, O'Neill cylinders are basically going to look like the International Space Station on steroids. They're not going to be the best places in the world to live in, but neither were the mining towns that existed in the early American West. The frontier that existed in the early history of America wasn't a great place to live in. It was seedy and it was hard to get to and it sucked. But at the same time, the resources that it took to build the infrastructure to get there were more than repaid with the actual resources that were available there. So I think much is the same in space, except in space, there's not a whole bunch of Navi, like Daniel was talking about, that we need to go and genocide in order to go get those resources. They're literally just sitting there doing nothing. And
but why send humans at all? Why do that? Because without artificial gravity, they can never come back to Earth anyway. If they're up there for like a year or two, their hearts are going to be adjusted to a new type of gravity, and their bone density is going to go down.
It's not true. We've had people up in space for a year before, I believe, and we've been able to return them. Now, yes, they need to do rigorous exercise while they're in space. They need to do constant rigorous exercise routines in order to make that the case. And we don't know whether we can actually have multi-generational people up there in space. There is definitely a chance, and that would probably limit human habitation to just the Earth and the moon due to how close the moon is to the Earth. But if humans have to be born on the Earth in order to inhabit the Earth in any capacity, then yeah, that is going to massively limit our reach. But I think that the idea that we need to worry about what's going on here before we worry about what's going on in space. Well, what's the point where everything is perfect to the point where we need to worry about going to space? Okay, let's say that we solve homelessness. Okay, homelessness has been solved. Now we need to worry about the fact that everybody is hungry. Okay, nobody's hungry anymore. Now we need to worry about the crime rate. Okay, we've solved the crime rate. Now we need to worry about, there's always going to be another issue. There's always going to be another problem that needs to be addressed. So I think it's a slippery slope to just endlessly go, we need to solve things here.
But you even admitted
I-
we're in the middle of an extinction event, a huge extinction event.
Right.
So you don't think that we should get ourselves out of that first before we start looking at space in that
I think
magnitude
that
that
this
you're
is part.
thinking of?
I think this is part of how we get ourselves out of that, Big Bad Mama.
Can
Yeah, but
I
what-
can I
Go ahead.
can I say something real
Go
quick?
ahead.
Wait, before you do, I just want to put a bow on my thought. So if AI is the future of this all, I think this is a problem because somebody's going to own that in the current system that we have. That's all I want to say. But Odin,
How do
go
you
ahead.
fly with no atmosphere? I mean, I'm not talking about conventional flight, obviously, Phantom. I'm talking about like plasma jet flight. That would be.
Yeah, but we still have countries, and we still have which companies run this. I mean, that's kind of what
Companies.
Daniel's bringing
That's right.
up.
A
Is
CEO.
we're still so divided by country now that what Aiden is talking about would require global cooperation, which isn't even close to existing at this
It
point.
wouldn't require global cooperation. The United States of America.
Okay, so the United States is supposed to bear all the costs of this thing for the entire world, or just
No,
for the
I
United
wouldn't
States?
even. I wouldn't even say that. Obviously, the United States wouldn't do this for the goodness of the human race. Of course, they wouldn't. All the talk of the Apollo space flights, it was really nice and rosy language, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the United Nations flag they planted on the moon in 1969. It was the American flag they planted on the moon. And I agree that if America is the one that's going to do this, it's probably going to be China, if I'm honest with you. But if it is going to be one of these countries, and it is going to be one of these countries in the future, if humanity has any hope of long-term success.
Or a
in my
company.
opinion. I mean, it could be a company that is, I mean, in the case of China, it's probably going to
AI.
be a company that is subsidized by the state, because that's often the case in China. And not necessarily unheard of in America either. I'm sure you've heard recently that America purchased a portion of Intel. Like the American government now owns a part of Intel. But no, it's only China that does that, apparently, if you listen to the American propaganda machine. Anyways,
Yeah, Odin wanted to say something, I think.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
wanted to finish off just really quick, Odin, and just say that these resources are going to be taken by somebody, and they are going to be used to somebody's benefit, and it's probably better that America gets those for its benefit rather than China. Wouldn't you agree, Big Bad Mama?
All right, Odin, now's your chance.
Now's your chance. Go.
Well, I kind of came in to clarify a few things, mainly because I don't think any of this is going to matter or even take place because the current mindset of humans in terms of how we function, how it is now. Because even if we were to somehow get to another planet, it'll just be another Earth 2.0. And the same type of suffering, the same type of issues that we experience here, it's basically going to be the same on another planet. So all we're basically doing is just taking our shit and just smearing it all over the universe at that point. So when I say we have to address our issues here, it's not necessarily just a matter of solving world hunger and stuff like that. I mean, when I say issues, I mean behavioral issues when it comes to humans and even how we value life. We don't even value life. If you don't value life, how you expect to explore the universe? What happens if you run into another species that's semi-intelligent like us, right?
Okay.
But you see what I'm saying? There are things about us that we have to address first. But how we hold on.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I thought you were done. I apologize. Please keep going.
So I'm not saying we have to do one thing at a time. I'm not saying we need to do everything. What I'm saying is that we have to take a balanced approach in terms of how we decide to address these issues and deal with the problem of space travel, because space wants to kill us, right? I'm
Really
sure
badly.
everyone in this room, like really badly. And so if you have a situation where, at least as a collective, where we don't even have the basic respect for human life, human dignity, or even dignity for others, for the species on our old planet, we're just going to move on and do the same thing over and over again. So what I'm saying is, I think the issues, I think in order to maximize our probability and capacity, there are certain key issues we could solve, because if we solve those key issues, right, we will get more engineers, we'll get more physicists, we'll get more people who can do research, right, and provide all the necessary resources that will actually make it even easier and find even more innovative ways of travel. We can't just leave it up to this, well, we'll just keep exploring, trying to, waddle about, trying to explore space, and will indirectly solve all of these problems. I'm sorry, we've known how to solve world hunger for a very long time now, right? We haven't. We haven't even thought about doing it. No company, no country, no one has thought about implementing that technology for the greater good of humanity. It's
Well,
just still just for individual countries, individual companies, and individuals themselves.
May I reply?
That's all I wanted to say. Yep.
Okay. So thank you very much for the eloquent statement. I appreciate it. The thing I would say is that we as a species absolutely need to mature. I agree with you. But the maturation of a group as complex as the human race, of course, is not going to happen overnight. But one of the biggest steps that comes with maturity is opening yourself up to new experiences and opening yourself up to a wider world around you and realizing that that wider world has much more potential than the world that you have initially experienced in front of you. The earth is the cradle of humanity, but it's also going to be its grave if we just endlessly stick here and endlessly worry about what's happening right in front of us. I think that what we see as a pattern in human behavior throughout our history is when we get the most barbaric, when we get the most desperate, and when we do the most depraved things that we have seen people do, is when we are in extreme poverty and when we're in extreme destitution. And I think that, is there a very real possibility that all of this wealth that exists out there in that vast cosmos in front of us is just exploited by mega corporations and we don't ever see any benefit of it? Of course, that's a possibility. But we'll never get to even get beyond speculation as to whether or not that's the case if we never see a moment of actually reaping that reward that is just out there for the taking. And it is that gathering of those resources, it is that increase in our material wealth that we typically find to better plate that veneer of human decency that we like to hold ourselves aloft upon. It's when people are in the quote unquote good times that people often find themselves not murdering their neighbor over a tin of beans, right? So I think how we achieve that on a wider scale is by not endlessly worrying about the little scraps that we have on this little tiny part of our universe, and instead seeing what everything else out there has to offer for us. And I'm not talking about, we don't have to be going out to Saturn We don't have to be going out to the outer reaches of the solar system. I've been emphasizing the Earth lunar system because there's so much resources that are just right there. And we could have been building that infrastructure for well over half a century now. And we just haven't been, because the will hasn't been there, because there's always another conflict that we need to worry about. There's always another geopolitical problem that ends up grabbing our attention. And if we only had the discipline to actually commit ourselves to this, I think the benefits that we would see as a species would lead to just the maturation that you're talking about and would be more conducive to a unifying effort.
I think that's delusional. If
Okay.
we do not, if you, if I'm sure you pay attention to to all of these technical advances that we've had, like, and that's why you can talk about this, right? And so even if you look at how the space station is engineered, right, it is a marvel, right? And all of those techniques that exist in terms of maintaining a human life, if they were applied here on Earth, in terms of efficiency, I mean, our resource management and energy usage would skyrocket in terms of just in terms of availability.
How so?
I mean,
Yeah,
look
I
at
don't
what we're using
understand.
right. Okay, so what is being used right now to power the station?
Solar panels.
Solar panels, right? Now,
Yeah.
is it a situation where it's just constantly feeding, being fed solar light and it's powering everything? No, it has batteries in its system, right? It has power management in its system that ensures that it literally is always self-sustaining, right? The
Okay.
hardware and software that's available up there,
Right.
it was made down here, right? And so we can apply it down here. Now, some countries or communities have applied those things, right? And they've
Interesting.
benefited from that. But these are things that we could literally expand on. Even the way how, for example, if they wanted to, they can grow their own food there, right? We literally know what each and every plant need in order to grow efficiently and fast, right? To bear fruit. Yet we don't apply that here. We have monsters like Monsanto's who's basically exploiting farmers, right? And exploiting customers in so many different ways.
Dean,
We have tech.
if your argument is that the current system is fucked up, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The current
What
system
I'm
is
saying,
fucked up.
the current system will not allow for what you want.
Yeah, not if we don't push for change and not if we don't advocate that something actually be done. Because let's face it, the only time that NASA was ever given significant funding in the United States was when there was significant public pressure behind them having that kind of funding. Was when there was significant public pressure put on the American government to give NASA that kind of funding to the point where they were able to innovate all of these technologies and develop the Saturn V rocket and develop the Apollo program to the point where they were able to send multiple missions to the moon in the span of just a few years. All of that was made possible because the American people wanted that goal seen through. The political capital existed, the willpower existed, and they lined up, even though I'm sure there were plenty of people at that time who, just like you, were saying that it was never going to happen. We're saying that a man was never going to land on the moon. We're the same species who just a couple of weeks before the Wright brothers took their flight at Kitty Hawk put in the New York Times that it was going to take 2.5 million years for humanity to reach any kind of form of flight. There's always been pessimists out there that say that this current system isn't possible to be changed, but it's just that mentality that'll see us just confined to this planet and slowly die off in a horrible, suffering, painful way. That future that we were talking about just yesterday, where humanity has to scale itself back in order to survive, I agree that that's true, and we need to pursue that in order to survive. But part of that scaling back is expediting all of these resources, all of the gathering operations that we're currently doing on this planet that are destroying it, there's not one single mining operation that's beneficial to the environment around it, no matter how environmentally conscious it is. If we can
I
make
think
all of that external to our planet, it will benefit it, not hinder it.
Hey, Aiden, excuse me. I'm going to get going.
Okay, take care, Big Bad Mama. Thank
Okay,
you for being here.
thanks.
see
That
here.
was fun.
And
Bye,
with me,
guys.
thank you.
See, Big Bad
Thank you.
Mama.
It's been great.
How can I do
Okay.
this?
Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up?
But take care, Club.
I'm
I
just
didn't
trying to figure out.
the bells, they come and they go in pairs, it is the classic mantra. Daniel is not allowed to laugh at that, so he is going to maintain a neutral expression.
I got a smile on my face. You can see it.
I know.
Like it looks how it's supposed to look. So now I just need to adjust like
Yeah.
this little section right
Very
here.
cool, Odin.
I probably am.
He's got a hot
also-
mic.
And this right here.
I think he might have a hot mic. Hold on,
Mhm.
I'm gonna mute him.
Yeah, so I think that space exploration is going to be dominated by artificial intelligence and robotics. I don't. It makes so much more sense if you're going to put out all that energy to put things up into space. Why not have it like self-assemble on the other side and like have something ready for us? If there is to be like a little spot for us to hang out there, but I don't really foresee like these human workers being in space like The Expanse. Like, have you seen any of the sci-fi?
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's not happening.
But I do also think that there's going to come a point where through things like O'Neill cylinders, they will eventually become advanced enough if we do have the infrastructure in space where we actually can start building them like you see in films like Elysium, and where we can actually provide real material luxury to people outside of this planet. Now, I don't think that we're going to find that on Mars or the moon or anything like that. I think that the only way that you're really going to be able to do that in space is if you create artificial gravity. It's probably going to be through artificial rotation of those stations that's going to create gravity that's at least roughly similar to that of Earth, which is also how you deal with the issue of, well, how do we have children in space, and how do we deal with that kind of infrastructure when people can't be born in an Earth-like environment? You can't do that on Mars, but you can do that on a O'Neill cylinder. And
You've seen Mobile Suit Gundam, I assume?
I haven't
Universal
actually.
Century 079. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. So in Mobile Suit Gundam, they have that's like basically the premise. It's like humanity goes to the stars, and by the stars, they really just mean colonies in the solar system. I don't even know if they even have a colony on Mars. They basically just put all their eggs in the basket of these awesome O'Neill cylinders, basically. And there are different like colonies, but eventually some of these colonists want to break away from the Earth government because they're like basically America in space. They're just like,
Right.
why do we have to be taxed by you guys? And they end up having a war. And of course, these space colonies are extremely vulnerable just because of, the predicament that they're in, that it ended up being like a horrible, horrible war. And of course, the space colonists like want to cause a little bit of hurt on the Earth too, because it's so easy to take our colonies out. So they ended up dropping a colony right on the Earth, and that's how the war ends.
Jeez.
And it's a long anime that has like a bunch of different like story arcs where it's all basically talking about war, but like at different points in history of like, because they always do kind of come back to it at some point. They have times of peace, and then eventually there's war again. But there'd be like a delineation between the human race where there's people that are spacers and there's people that are on Earth, because it would create a whole new culture, even if there is.
It would.
Yeah.
No, it would, absolutely. And that's another reason why I say that if we're really going to do that at any time in the near future, we're not going to be doing that around Mars, where we're only going to be able to go in very short windows and even be able to access those kind of colonies. We're going to be able to do it in Earth lunar space, where we actually do have access to instantaneous communication, and we do have access to be able to go and visit those colonies at any point that we want, because they're directly in our system. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to be able to maintain any kind of semblance of culture whatsoever, where we're going to be able to have any kind of similar identity. And I still think it is going to create division, like you say. It's just inevitable. But I really am a strong believer that that is the best way forward for the human race, is if we just stop putting all of our eggs in this basket and we really do start looking beyond this for our horizons, because it is in our best interests to go and extract all these I have no problem when it comes to space. When it comes to Earth, I'm all for socialism. I'm a socialist as far as most things are concerned, or a social democrat. Like, I'm not Democrat in the American sense before people go after me for that, but no. I think that as far as that's concerned, fine. But as far as space, yeah, hell yeah, be a hyper capitalist all you want. Unrestricted space mining, strip everything away, take everything of any relative value. Okay, we'll leave like a 5-mile radius around the Apollo landing sites because they're historical sites, and we'll leave those alone so that the tourists can go look at those. But everything else, strip it away for all that I care. Like, that is a way better approach than doing that on this planet, I think. And I think that the idea that we need to solve problems here being different than going to space is silly, because we can solve problems here by going to space. Anyways, I will let you, M. Dean, have final thoughts, because I think the Proverbs Guys show is going to be starting right about now, and I don't want to be taking any viewers away from them. Everybody that's watching right now, go and migrate over to the Proverbs Guys. They're doing a really cool debate over there.
What's it on?
It's Robin and Steven are going to be debating over whether America is a Christian nation, or whether it's founded as a Christian nation or not. So
It's founded by deists.
yeah. I mean, it is.
Freaking Freemasons, yeah.
I checked. It's about 2 hours according to YouTube. Oh, do you mean that it's in 2 hours according to YouTube? Hold on, let me double check that, because if they're in 2 hours, I might go on for a little bit more. I don't know. I think that this has been a pretty good length of the show as it is, quite frankly. But let's double check this. Yeah, it says it's waiting for them, so I am going to shut it down from here. Thanks very much, everybody. Unless, Daniel, you have anything to say in closing?
Yeah. I would say it's not a bad idea to think about space. We in our Orthodox prayers, we even we ask for God to protect those who are in space. We know that it's probably going to be part of our future if Christ doesn't come back before that time. But I would I don't know. I don't think there's aliens out there, and if we do find something like aliens, I'd be very skeptical of it. And I don't know. That's what I got. I don't have a really good ending statement.
No. I wasn't expecting the Citizen Kane.
I know I should have though. It feels bad coming out. It's just like, I don't really have a coherent thought here, but all right.
What the hell, YouTube? YouTube rejected my comment, even though it was literally just lol. What the hell? It's not letting me talk. Hold on. I'm going to try talking to someone else. Is it censoring me? Yeah, I can't say lol spooky in the side chat for some reason. YouTube's like, that's not allowed. We're not going to let that go through. Whatever. I found your comment funny, Spooky. Dean, are you there, my friend? No, it seems that he is still away at the moment. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you so much, everybody that tuned in. Have a good one. And I will probably be seeing you tomorrow, because I'm hopelessly addicted to this. Take care.
All right. Take care.